I have the distinct pleasure and honor of introducing our first speaker, our keynote speaker this morning, Jennifer Jones. Our speaker this morning asked that we imagine a world that deserves our best, that we get up each morning knowing that we can make a difference. Our speaker is Rotary International President-elect Jennifer Jones, the first female Rotary president. Jennifer believes in respect, honor, and the importance of continuity of leadership. She's known for empowering colleagues, inspiring future leaders, and leading with warmth while taking decisive action and getting results. She is a leader who encourages innovation in fundraising and in all opportunities. Several examples are Rotary's Polio Golf Day with Jack Nicklaus in Juniper, Florida, USA, which raised over $5.25 million for polio eradication in one day. Very good. And also the innovative virtual COVID-19 hashtag Rotary Responds event that raised money for COVID-19 relief projects and showcased Rotary's response across the globe. Jennifer shows us that the secret sauce to effective leadership is authenticity. Simply put, being authentically yourself. So please, let's give a warm welcome to Rotary International President-elect Jennifer Jones.
Thank you, Nancy. Good morning, Presidents-elect.
Good morning.
It is a joy to be with all of you this morning as we get up and embark upon our first day of President-elect training. And it's just such a delight to be able to look out and see so many good friends. Now, I know that we had our panel discussion up here last night, and I will tell you that traveling to a lot of different President-elect training sessions across North America over the past month, it is not an understatement to say, I hope you appreciate the royalty that you have in this neck of the woods. It is the land of heroes, and you saw so many of them on stage last night. Nick and I had the wonderful joy to come in on Tuesday to Chattanooga, our first time visiting this beautiful city. How many of you are from Chattanooga? Had the chance to meet Virginia at their club meeting, the big club meeting yesterday, a wonderful program on human trafficking, which was exceptional. But we had a chance to stay with one of my personal heroes, and John Germ and his wife Judy. And they toured us around, and we had a chance to go and spend the afternoon in the aquarium, and we got to see the Miracle Field that is built here. But I think most notably, what I will probably tell friends about is how the Southern hospitality includes a lot of really good eating. And I think I have a little food baby going on right now. But we've tried wonderful things. I've had green beans every day, 14 different ways to Sunday, and it's been really good. As a vegetarian, this is a very important thing for me. Anyway, it is a joy, and I know that all of the speakers were recognized and introduced this morning, and the one that you didn't get to see on stage last night that you will see tomorrow morning is Michelangelo Caruso over there, and he is a superstar in the Rotary world, full of a lot of enthusiasm and energy, and he's going to help you get revved up for the year ahead. So, a couple of stories that I want to be able to share with you this morning, and I also want to be able to tell you a little bit about the theme that we've laid out for the year ahead. But first, let me begin by telling you about how back in August, Nick and I had the opportunity to finally move to Evanston, Illinois. We come from Windsor, Ontario, Canada, and obviously with our borders being closed for the past 2 years, we were quite eager to finally get to our international headquarters, to finally walk into my president-elect office, to a space that I have respected for so many years, watching the past presidents who are here and being able to observe the sort of the reverence that I have for that space, to finally see the big desk that I would get to sit behind for the next couple of years, and to finally, quite frankly, work from someplace other than my dining room. And yeah, and get rid of a few of the little boxes that I know we've all been looking through for the past 2 years. It was a couple of mornings later that I received on my phone a private message from a Rotarian in Great Britain. And he explained to me that he has contact with a young woman who was a peace activist living at that point in time in Kabul, Afghanistan. Now, if I can take you back to that point in time, that was as we saw tens of thousands of people daily on our television sets trying to flee as the Taliban was taking over the country. And this young woman had reached out. She had a relationship with their club, and she had reached out and said that she was in grave danger. And was there any way that they could help her? And so he was writing to me to say, you know, Jennifer, is there any way that you could help to get her on an evacuation list? Now, I got to say that sitting behind my big desk, I was suddenly feeling very small. Who was I? Who was I, and how was I going to be able to help someone a half a world away get onto an evacuation list to get out of the country? She was communicating with private VPN lines. So I thought about it, and then I reached out to a peace fellow, a Rotary peace fellow, that I thought had the kind of connectivity that it could at least give me a little bit of guidance. So I sent him an email. It was a long shot favor, but I sent him an email. And I am proud to tell you that within 24 hours, she was on an evacuation list. Yes. Less than 48 hours, she was safely on a plane, en route to somewhere in Europe to be further processed. Now, the hero of this story is the Peace Fellow. And can you imagine what she was thinking as she sat in her chair and that plane launched into the sky? That quite honestly, that had to be a Rotary miracle. When we share these stories, we come to learn and come to understand the power of connection that we have, the power that each one of us has to be able to share our stories that other like-minded people will say and identify with them and say, I want to be part of what you're part of. That we exist as an organization without borders and boundaries. And even though we know everything happens at our club, we are connected to a global community. Each one of us has this global passport by being a member of our clubs. A couple of years ago, I had a wonderful opportunity to participate in an interview on American television. And the host was a Rotarian. And shortly before the interview started, he made this sort of shocking confession. And he said, you know, Jennifer, he said, I've been a member of my Rotary Club for more than 30 years, but I've only recently just got Rotary. He told me about how he had started participating in a coat program, delivering coats to children in his community that were in need. And it turned him on. It gave him a purpose and a passion. Can you imagine that he sat through 1,500 Rotary Club meetings before he got Rotary? What message, what lesson do we take from that? Well, here it is. I met a young interactor in Melbourne, Australia. I was there for a visit, and my good friend Bronwyn took me to this school, and she introduced me to this interactor, I should say, named Peter. And Peter said, if you want responsible children, you have to give them responsibilities. think Peter was onto something. I don't want to suggest for one moment that our members are children, but the principle applies. Somebody just laughed. Okay. That wasn't supposed to be funny. But if you want responsible members, you need to give them responsibilities. Dear Presidents-elect, this is your key function this year. You've all received a video from me about the comfort and care of our members. If you haven't seen it, we can make sure that you get it, and your governors-elect can get that into your hands. But it's about making sure that we engage people when we bring them into our clubs, that we help to understand that when they have something meaningful to do, a meaningful responsibility, that's how they stay. My friends, we don't have a problem attracting and bringing people into our organization. We have a backdoor problem. We, over the past decade, have brought 1.2 million members into our organization. Think about that just for a second. So what does that mean? It means we've lost 1.2 million as well. So yeah, we're really good at saying, come and join us. But we need to fix this. We need to stop being about the numbers. We need to be about making sure that the experience that they have is something meaningful. We had a chance for Elizabeth to ask us last night, a few of us, about some of our projects that were passion points when we were club presidents. You know, I know that when I joined my Rotary Club in 1996, it was just a couple of weeks later that they asked me to chair our club's largest fundraiser, our annual Lobster Fest. Over 800 people in attendance, 1 metric ton of lobster, and I thought, my goodness, who am I to be able to take on this task? But you know what they said? We're not going to let you fail. And so I took it on, and I did it to the best of my ability, and the event went well, and our wedding was 2 weeks later. We didn't serve lobster. But I remember thinking to myself, how on earth did I even accept that challenge, knowing that I had a wedding 2 weeks later? I mean, you know the kind of planning that's going on for doing that. But they trusted me. They gave me an authentic responsibility. So don't let the members of your club say, oh, no, they can't do that, they're new. That's not the way we've done it. How many of you have heard that in your clubs? Exactly. We need to get rid of that kind of thinking. We need to make sure that we're, as a group of presidents-elect right here, you have the opportunity to write the story that you want for your clubs. And as we come out of this 2-year window of having to be very insular, having to be alone in many cases, it's going to be up to us to be brave, courageous, intentional leaders in how we take care of our members. When someone comes in, the best thing that we can do is ask them what they want out of their experience, and then deliver on it. And not just the new person walking through the door. Let's ask our existing members the same question. The people who maybe have been around for 15 or 20 years, but maybe just come to lunch. What would you like out of this experience? And then figure out a way to deliver it. 50 years ago, there was an anthem that was recorded that included these beautiful words that you'll recognize. You may say, I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I see those words as a call to action for each and every one of us to get out of bed each day and understand that we can truly make a difference, as Nancy started in the lovely introduction. That's what we get to do. We need to get up every day knowing that we can make a difference, because you don't imagine yesterday, you imagine tomorrow. So it's our opportunity as a class to dream our wildest Rotary dreams, and then make them a reality. So we're going to need to be nurturing, caring presidents this year, each and every one of us. How many of you are a little bit nervous about the year ahead? You know what? So am I. You know what that means? It means we care. It's good to have a little bit of nervous energy about what we're doing. It is. Not debilitating energy. You don't want to be debilitated by it, but we want healthy nerves about what we're doing because we want to make sure that we do the best at what we do. So now when you go back into your clubs, I want to be able to explain to you the logo design of what we did here so that you're able to tell the story to your members back in your clubs. Our international convention that we are going to share together is going to be in Melbourne, Australia. And one of the things that I wanted to make sure that we did was to have a presidential logo and a convention logo that had a bit of a familial relationship to them. So reached out and engaged with an artist, Ricky Salem, in Australia, an Indigenous Aboriginal artist. And so we had several meetings and went through all different configurations of things, and we whittled it down to the logo that you see here today. The circle that is in the middle, when in Aboriginal lore, when they sit in circle together, cross-legged on the ground, when you get up, there's a bit of this half moon that is on the ground. And what Ricky explained to me is that when they're sitting in circle, that is a representative mark of being together in connection. And so what he did was he took it and he continued the circle around so that it's an actual total whole circle, which represents ultimate connection. And then, putting the dots around the outside, he said that they represent people. So people sitting together, people of action, people of purpose, people of influence, all of us sitting there trying to have discussion about how to solve the world's most pressing challenges. When you put them together, he said it creates what he called a navigation star, a way for us to see our way into the future. And then perhaps my favorite part is the green line at the very bottom. What it is what he called a digging stick. And so what they used the digging stick for was in hard work, when you needed to dig up the ground to plant or to build or to do anything like that. So for us, as people of action, it's our metaphorical digging stick for all of the hard work that we're going to do together over the next year and a half. So I wanted to be able to share that with you. And then the last part is that this year I selected theme colors, purple, green, and white. The purple very easily could stand for polio. The green could easily stand for the environment, white for peace. And there will be many ways for this logo and for those colors to be interpreted. For me, it's a very subtle and silent nod to the colors of the suffragette, the women's movement. I won't talk a lot about being, fist pump in the back, all right, over there. I won't talk a lot about being our first international woman president, but I did think it was important to have some subtle recognition of the fact that that existed. So let me close with a final story. A couple of years ago, I was prepping for a media interview, and I was sitting talking with my youngest brother, Dave, and both of us in the media industry. And as many of you have done media interviews, what you do in advance is you think about what they're going to ask you and how you're going to respond. It's a great practice to be able to go through creating your key messages. And so we were going through this exercise, and the interview was about the role of service in civil society. So out of my brother's mouth came these words. He said, "In order to live in the kind of society you want, you have to help build it." And I looked at him and I said, "Dave," I said, "who said that?" And he said, "I said that." And I said, "No." I said, no, who said that? And he said, "I said that." And we started to sound like we were in Abbott and Costello routine. And the reality is, it was an original quote out of his mouth. In order to live in the kind of society you want, you have to help build it. And I think that that just fits hand in glove with our organizational vision statement. Together, we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our own communities, and in ourselves. Who here is not a better person because of being in Rotary? Nick and I had the privilege to attend a conference in Jordan, the country of Jordan, where the opening ceremonies was in an outdoor amphitheater right on the foot of the Dead Sea. And it was an evening, and there was this beautiful tapestry of stars over her top, and when the speeches were done, we retired to a lovely dinner outside as well. And the governor, he brought over a gentleman sort of midway through the evening, and he wanted to introduce me to Dr. Mark Turpentine. Mark was in the country for what was called a Gift of Life mission. Anyone here know of Gift of Life? Okay, so just a couple of hands. What it is an organization that works with Rotary, and these doctors go out and provide open heart surgery to children in parts of the world or in areas where they could not afford and or access this type of procedure. So we had a lovely little conversation, and fast forward to the end of the week, and the governor said to me, he says, Jen, he said, Dr. Mark is starting the surgical rotation today. You only have a few hours before we need to take you to the airport. Would you like to go and see what's happening? And I said, of course, I would love to do that. So we quickly dashed off to the hospital, and very quickly I found myself putting on hospital greens, and seconds later standing at the entrance to the operating theater. And I took a step in, very quietly, stepped off to the side, barely breathing. There ahead of me was Dr. Mark. There was a patient in front of him. There was a nurse off to this side and an anesthetist standing on this side. And I could tell that the patient was covered from head to toe, and there was an opening of some kind over the area of the heart where he was performing the surgery. So I just stood watching, and he took what looked like a piece of cloth, maybe about the size of a dollar coin, and he was stitching onto the heart, and I could see that he was stitching with great precision. Stitch, stitch, stitch. And then every once in a while, he would tuck his hand a little bit under the heart and give it a little jiggle. And he would look over to the anesthetist and say, warm it up a little. And then he would go back to stitching, and he would give it a little jiggle, another little warm it up a little. At some point, he felt some energy in the room, I guess, because he turned around and he said, Jen, when did you come in? And I said, just a few minutes ago. And he said, come on over, let me show you what I'm doing. And I said, okay. So I walked up to the table, and there was the patient, a little square cut over the opening of the heart. And he showed me how he was stitching, another little jiggle, another warm it up a little. And it was at that point that he introduced me to 6-month-old baby Selma, a refugee from Syria. Finally, after a number of different passes of stitching, he finally tied that knot. And at that point, he put his hand under it and he gave it a really good jiggle. And then he looked over to the anesthetist and he said, okay, warm it up. And at that moment, little Selma's heart started to beat. Boom, 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 boom. I hadn't realized that her heart wasn't beating. It makes perfectly logical sense. She was in the middle of an open heart surgery. But at that moment, I got to watch her come back to life. And then I got to go out into the hallway and see her parents and tell them, I just saw Selma's heart beating, and she's gonna be good. And she's gonna run, and she's gonna play, and she's gonna be a great little girl. And we just stood together with tears, with a lot of hugs. And I can tell you, I am a better person for meeting baby Selma. Those last words in our vision statement, the lasting change within ourselves, these are the moments, my friends, that change our lives. Not every one of us is going to meet baby Selma, but every one of you is going to meet someone in your club, in your community, in your world, through our organization that is going to ignite and touch your hearts. It's our time. It's our time together to be able to show the world the best of who we are, the best of humanity, being able to take care of our world, our communities, and ourselves. Thank you very much for your kind attention, and have an incredible rest of your pets. Thank you.
little gift and autograph.